Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. My name is Drew Creekmer, I'm a wealth advisor with Creekmer Wealth, and today I have John Creekmer, our senior wealth advisor, here with me, and we're going to kind of hop all over and talk about some key financial planning topics to ensure that you are in the best place possible to achieve your big financial goals. Before we do that, though, John, how you doing
I'm doing
today?
good. I'm not doing good. I'm doing bad. Actually, I've had too many people ask me when I'm going to retire lately, and so I've kind of thought about actually shaving all of my hair off because I have gray hair, and I thought if I go bald, no one will know how old I am. But it's like I'm only 52. I can't be retiring anytime soon. So I actually thought about that, and I thought, man, when am I going to retire? And so I now know the date, and so we're going to write this down, Drew, and hold me to it. I've decided when every single person that comes into contact with our firm, when everybody is totally have laid out their goal objectives, their plans, they're confident in the plan, they're living life of joy and contentment, and they're accomplishing what they want to accomplish in life, then that's when I'll be ready to retire. So it's there we go. So that means I'll be continuing to engage and work with people, helping them make wise decisions, probably for as long as I have a breath.
Yeah, there you go. So you just set yourself a long time
I
horizon
know,
there.
I know. So we've now answered the question, so everyone can stop making me feel old. So
Oh man. Well, hey, you talk about that long time horizon that we have when we do financial planning, right? We build financial plans that are flexible, that can change as life changes and as the world changes, right? And so part of that is investment planning and financial planning. We know markets are high, markets are low. John, what would you say are in your years of experience, what are your three big tips to set someone up for long-term success in good markets and in bad markets? What are these three things that are true no matter what the
yeah, so
market's
these are
doing?
truisms, right? They're going to be around forever, and I think one of the things that I've really learned, and whenever I say I've learned, that means I've not just with clients, but in my own life. So however we talk about things, it's stuff that man I'm doing personally, and I've done personally, and so it's stuff that's going to be that was truthful. I want to say 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and it's going to be truthful 100 years from now. So as we're building our firm for 100 years out, you'll be hearing the same things probably from my great grandchildren, as far as sometime in the future. So, I mean, I think that first one, Drew, is proper diversification. And now there's some things of diversification, and that's really about how you spread out your assets across different asset classes. And so a lot of folks think an investment portfolio is just what they have in the stock market. The reality is what we have in fixed accounts is what you have in farmland, it's what you have in small businesses, what you have in cryptocurrencies or whatever the currency of the day is, commodities. It's being diverse, and there's old rules of thumb that are not truisms. They don't last forever. It's like one of those, Drew, is the old 60-40 rule.
Right?
Would say have 60% of your money in stocks and 40% in bonds. And reality is that's not true today.
Right?
And so, or take 100 and subtract your age, and that's how much you should have in stocks. Well, the reality is that doesn't hold true. It needs to be a unique asset allocation based upon where you're at in life with your goal objectives. And then from there, you find the tools, the products that fit your risk tolerance for your goal objectives, regardless of what they are. And so the 60-40 old philosophy rule of thumb, I think, is dead. But diversification will live on forever as a truism.
I think that's a huge truism. Now, you said something that I think, well, maybe some people's ears might perk up. You said 60-40 is dead. What do you mean by that? That's a pretty bold statement, right? So, can you provide some light and some color on that?
Yeah, so bold statement is right. I realized the last couple of years that time is short, and to sit around and not say things the way they are and based upon truth is kind of foolish. So let's just kind of be blunt here. The 60-40 philosophy would say you put 60% of your assets for a balanced portfolio into equities or stocks, 40% in fixed income. The reality is, right now, where we're at in the economic cycle and the interest rate cycle, as interest rates move up and they head up higher and higher, well, then you have to say that your holdings in bond investments will be going at best break even. And more than likely, depending on how quickly interest rates accelerate on the upside, they're going to be a negative rate of return. So, if you're in an economic cycle, and we see these cycles, they don't last for one day or 1 week or typically 1 year. They last for longer periods of time to 5 to 10 years. So, the question is, do you go with an old rule of thumb of saying putting 40% in bonds to be balanced, knowing that for a up to a decade period of time, that you're going to break even at best on 40% of your money, that doesn't make sense. And so on that, we say that theory is dead. Let's find a way in which we have risk in the account and we have diversification in the account that's going to be fluid. Let's not set on one particular type of solution or tool or philosophy. Let's say what makes sense in this time to accomplish your goals. And so I would say don't hold on to that old mantra from years ago, but instead say, you know, what really makes sense. It'll be philosophy you can hold to 100 years ago and 50 years in the future.
Right. Right. And you kind of talked about not holding on to mantras or maybe some rules of thumb. How do we take that thought process and then implement it when we're building financial plans for our clients? Because one of the things we provide each of our clients is a custom, unique to them financial plan that is tailored to make sure they achieve their goals. But how do we avoid the trap of accepting a rule of thumb as truth and just never deviating as we need to change as life and the world changes
Yeah,
around
and
us?
I think a lot of it is you have to have a contrarian philosophy, right? You have to say, um, okay, let's look at academically what is positioned out there as far as ways to make financial decisions, and then you have to ask yourself, what ifs? Let's actually say, what if this happened, or what are the things that would make this thing that people are holding on to as truth end up not being true? What items would happen? What environments would have to be there for those things not to be true? Let's try to blow it up. Let's understand a little bit of trough planning and say, okay, once we know that, then we can say, well, what environments do certain types of investments or certain classification or certain asset classes, in what environments do those perform better? Let's make sure that we allocate into those areas at the appropriate time. But also, you have to recognize it's not going to pivot on a dime. It's something which is not all of a sudden going to be this way, option A or strategy A today, strategy B tomorrow, and all this kind of flips automatically and happens. It happens in an experience that expands, that contracts over a period of time. And so a lot of it, Drew, is just saying, hey, let's make sure we align the risk of the day into the portfolios of today to build the future of tomorrow.
Right. Right. And I think that's really a critical mindset to have that contrarian viewpoint. And one of the things that we view as a truism, though, is that consistently saving is a cornerstone of any sound financial plan. And we go through different periods, market cycles. Johnny just talked about it, about being flexible during those market cycles. But no matter what's happening, you need to save consistently. And so, John, if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I have this lump sum of money. What do I do with it?" How would you walk through based upon where the market's at? Maybe it's high, maybe it's low. What would your advice be on saying, "Hey, this is how you should invest, whether it's a lump sum or if it's $100 a month"?
Yeah. I think that what you need to say is whether you have a lump sum of dollars or you're consistently saving money from earnings as far as on a monthly or a weekly basis or quarterly basis, you need to make sure that you have those dollars going in systematically over time into the various financial and really financial markets, but also not just financial markets, but also into real estate markets, into commodity markets, into alternative asset classes. And so we know that markets do one of two things, and I can tell you this with a 100% degree of certainty that today, as you're watching this, and 100 years from now, as I know you're going to sit back and go back in like in 10 years and say, "Huh, that was great with John and Drew. Let's go back and review it." And do with your old movies from back in the day. But and this will be true then, is that today the stock market is either going to go up or it's going to go down. The equity markets will go up or they will go down. The real estate market will. Your house is worth $1 more today or $1 less tomorrow, depending on who's driving by at that period of time. So because of that, to consistently set money into various investment vehicles for your portfolio is the critical component. It's not so much did I time it perfectly and select the absolute best day to invest, because invariably you will get that wrong, either on going in or on
Right.
coming out. And so you want to be consistent in applying the dollars that you have, the resources you have into those portfolios. That's the key principle.
Right. And I think we'll put a great example up here on the screen, and we'll show you a number of different examples. There's 5 examples here. On the far left, we have Peter, and Peter just absolutely nailed his market timing. He invested $2,000 every single year at the perfect low point in the market, and he did really well. But what I find interesting is the two people next to him, Ashley and Matthew. Ashley, every single year on the first day of the year, she put in $2,000 and didn't do anything else. And Matthew, He put his $2,000, he split it up and he invested it in an equal amount on the first of each month. And what's interesting here is their portfolio is almost identical, and they're not that far behind Peter, but they followed that rule that you just talked about, just saying consistently investing. And reality is, you're going to get timing right sometimes, you're going to be really wrong other times. And so try to mitigate that risk by just consistently investing, no matter whether the market's high or low. And I think, John, another great truism is managing your emotions. We like this chart showing the market cycle using emojis, which, if you're watching this 100 years from now, emojis will probably be a thing of the past. But, John, you've been through a number of market cycles. What are your thoughts when it comes to managing emotion? Are you watching the news every single minute? Or are you shutting the news off and you're going outside and going for a walk? Or are you reviewing your plans? What are your thoughts whenever things get kind of wacky out there?
It's one of these things. I think Warren Buffett, a wise investor for many years, as far as in the financial markets, who actually followed the teachings of somebody who was a mentor of his that was 50 years older than him, as far as Benjamin Graham, and just philosophies that last a long time. And Warren Buffett says, when people are fearful, to be greedy; when people are greedy, to be fearful. At the end of the day, what he is saying is whenever people make investment decisions or financial decisions based upon emotions, invariably it's going to be the wrong decision. The thing that's challenging is whenever you're looking back over time, and let's say we were looking at the previous 12 months, and we can go in and say, on this day, I should have done this. I should have bought, I should have sold. The problem with that is that you don't have the benefit of seeing the right side of the chart on that particular day. And so, in other words, you don't know what the future is going to be when you make that decision. And so, whenever you're looking at that, you're trying to say, when do I make an investment? When do I get out of an investment? Well, if you make it solely upon your feeling or your emotion, it's going to be a really bad outcome. Now, you might get lucky every now and then, but luck is not a plan. And so a plan says, let's go through and make decisions that are based upon time, that has to do with our goal objectives. And once we make that decision, do not go back and watch the news and second guess what we did instead shouldn't what you did, say shoulda, coulda, woulda. Instead, disconnect from the news because the news is there to drive emotion. The news is not there to give you information to make wise decisions. And so you have these goal objectives that really say who you are as an individual. It is the core of things that are most important to you and the most important things you like to do. Maybe it's building a treehouse with your grandchild. You will get so much more value out of that than going back and reading the news and say, I just lost 3% because this country invaded that country. Oh, I made an extra 2% because this professional athlete signed with a big market team instead of a small market team. Those things have no impact on your contentment or joy in life, nor do they have actual impact on long term success in portfolios. So do not allow emotions to drive your financial decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, in order to make sure that you don't have those emotions driving your financial decisions, you need that really strong financial plan, right? And so, John, with some of these truisms that we talked about here in mind, what would you just summarize some of these key foundational items for folks to always keep in mind, no matter what's going on in the world around us?
I think the number one thing is to make sure you know where you're going. All decisions need to take you someplace. Whenever we talk with folks about some of their life decisions, and the big one, as an example, is like retirement. Um, we have found just an experience of working with people, there's a big difference of those that retire from something versus those that retire to something. And so we're looking at a change in the sentence of from to to. And so whenever you think about any financial decision, so whether it's retirement planning, whether it is how to invest your portfolio, you need to be looking at what is the ultimate objective you're trying to accomplish. What is your goal? What is your time frame? What are the dollars to be used for to accomplish purposes that quite honestly are more significant to you than what the actual money is? And so, if you want to make wise decisions regarding finances, regarding your investment portfolios, tie those decisions to your goal objectives. And then do not, once you make those decisions, do the opposite of what sometimes our human nature is, depending upon how we're made up. We're all different, right? We respond to things. and instead set a scheduled time that you review where you're at and realizing your goals. Not necessarily what your rate of return is, but where are you at and actually realizing your goals in the time frame that you have before you. So maybe it's every 6 months, maybe it's every 12 months, but maybe it's quarterly, but you are consistently reviewing where you're at, not in rate of return, but where are you at in realizing your goal objectives. That is the most critical component of being financially successful and accomplishing the most important things in life that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really powerful to keep that in mind, and that's something that working with any of our advisors across the country, you will always have the goals front and center with what you do. We found now over a number of decades doing this that is the most impactful thing to ensuring long-term success both in life and in your finances. And so we would encourage you, if you have any questions, reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you about what's going on in your life, your goals, your finances, and what we can do to help ensure that you're really able to live the life that you envision. So thanks for your time, guys, and we hope to talk to you soon.